and was led into his presence.
Right? Presence of the Ancient of Days.
He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All peoples, nations, and men of every language worshipped him.
Worshipped who?
The Son of Man.
What's interesting about the term worship in the Aramaic, the word is Pela, that word is used in Daniel in connection with the worship that must be given to God alone. For instance, if you go to Daniel 3, King Nebuchadnezzar commands everyone to worship, using this very verb, the golden image. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego say, no, we will worship our God and no one else. Yet here it says this Son of Man receives the very worship which is supposed to be given to God alone. Before you move on, catch what it just said. Not some, every nation must worship this Son of Man. But according to Daniel chapter 3, from verses 8, if you read 8 all the way to 18, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego say, no, we will worship no one but our God. Then how is it God is commanding everyone to worship this Son of Man? How can God do that? Well, the reason why God can do that is because this Son of Man is more than human. He's God appearing as man. Yet at the same time, He's distinct from God. Did you catch it? He's distinct from the Ancient of Days. The Ancient of Days is God. And yet this one, Son of Man, happens to be God as well. That sure sounds like Trinitarian New Testament theology. But what is it doing in the Old Testament? Are you telling me there was a Christian at the time of Daniel whispering in his ear, hey, write this down because we're going to use it later to convince people of the Trinity? Oh, okay. Or does that tell you that even the prophets knew their God was more than one person? Not only is He worshipped by everyone, the Son of Man rules forever, just like the mighty God of Isaiah 9. Do you remember in Isaiah 9, the child who's born? He's the mighty God who rules forever on the throne of David. So too does the Son of Man. The Son of Man rules forever. Continue.
His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and His kingdom is one that will never be destroyed.
So the reign of the Son of Man is eternal. He rules forever, and He's worshipped by everyone. But read verse 27 of the same chapter. It is the kingdom of the Most High that's eternal, and everyone must worship the Most High. Same chapter says that in verse 27. Read 27 for me. Daniel 7, 27. Read it for me.
Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be handed over to the saints, the people of the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will worship and obey Him.
Wait, Pastor, I just got confused. Didn't you just read earlier? The kingdom of the Son of Man is forever, and everyone worships Him. Is that what you just read in Daniel 7, 13 and 14? But in verse 27 it says, it's the kingdom of the Most High that remains forever, and He is to be worshipped. So who's to be worshipped? The Son of Man or the Most High, or both? Both. Whose kingdom is forever? The Son of Man, the Most High, or both? Both. So you're telling me Daniel sees two divine figures, and yet Daniel is a monotheist? He knows there's only one God? Not only that, you remember it says He comes on the clouds of heaven? Comes on the clouds of heaven? According to the Old Testament, that's the vehicle of God. It is God who rides the clouds. So why is the Son of Man riding the clouds when it is God who does? Now where does the Bible say God rides the clouds? Go to Isaiah 19:1. So the Son of Man rides the clouds like God. The Son of Man rules forever like God. And the Son of Man is worshipped like God. Who in the world is the Son of Man? Could He be God? Yeah. And according to the New Testament, that's the Messiah, Jesus, the Son of Mary. Read for me Isaiah 19:1. Who rides the clouds?
An oracle concerning Egypt. See, the Yahweh rides on a swift cloud and is coming to Egypt.
So who rides the cloud?
Yahweh.
But Daniel said the Son of Man does. So can you make up your mind here?
Yahweh is the Son of Man.
No wonder you're a Trinitarian pastor. Your church must be smoking and rocking. Where's your church? I want to come and attend, right? Actually, I do attend this church. You know, this is free publicity. I won't mention the name of the church, but you may have the wrong visitors coming. You don't mind? All right. Okay. My name is Pastor Leland. For those of you who don't know, yeah. I want you to live longer, see your kid and your grandkids. I don't want to send you to Jesus right away, right? So the Son of Man rides the clouds, and yet Yahweh rides the clouds. Now, how did the rabbis explain this verse? Now, let me tie in another verse with it. Psalm 110 verse 1. Let me tie in other words, because when the rabbis explain Daniel 7, the Son of Man, they tie in this passage, the Psalm 110:1, with it. Psalm 110:1, this is a Psalm of David. David says, the utterance, literal translation, the utterance or the word of Yahweh to my Lord is, the word of Yahweh to my Lord is, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. So David's Lord is exalted by God to sit on His right hand. To sit on God's right hand is to rule from the highest position of authority there is next to God. Now, how did the rabbis explain Psalm 110 and Daniel 7? Well, let me give you their comment there. It's kind of lengthy, but it's worth reading, lest I be accused of reading Christian theology into the Old Testament. How did the rabbis interpret this passage? Now, the reference comes from the Midrash on the Psalms. This is a Midrash, an explanation, a commentary on the Psalms. And if you want these references, we'll make them available. You can contact us via email, and we'll send you copies of the material that I'm using for tonight's lecture. But let me read how the rabbis explain these passages. Rabbis who are not Christian, don't believe in Jesus. This is how they explain it. In the decree of the prophets, it is written, behold, my servant shall prosper. He shall be exalted and lifted up and shall be very high. That's Isaiah 52:13. So the rabbis are commenting on Isaiah 52:13. And it is also written, behold, my servant, whom I uphold, mine elect, in whom my soul delights, Isaiah 42:1. In the decree of the writings it is written, the Lord said unto my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. Note they're quoting what we just read. And it is also written, I saw in the night vision, and there came with the clouds of heaven, one like a son of man, and he came even to the Ancient of Days. He was brought near before him, and there was given him dominion, glory, kingdom. All peoples, nations, and languages served or worshipped him. Now note how they translate this. Note how they explain this. In another comment, the verse is read, I will tell the decree of the Lord. This is Psalm 2:7. The Lord said unto me, thou art my son, ask of me, and I will give the nations for your inheritance. Rabbi Yudin said, all these prophecies are in the decree of the King of Kings, who will fulfill them for the Lord Messiah. You see how they explain these passages? According to this rabbi, all of these passages are speaking of the King Messiah. So according to the rabbis, Messiah is the Son of Man who rides the clouds. Messiah is David's Lord who sits at God's right hand. Messiah is the one who rules forever and everyone must worship Him. Now let's look at the dilemma again. The Quran is right, the Scriptures are uncorrupted, and the prophets bear witness in the Scriptures the Messiah is the Son of Man. He rides the clouds like God. He rules forever like God. He's worshipped as God, like God. He's the mighty God who reigns on David's throne forever. And then the Quran says Jesus is the Messiah. Then Muslims, why are you not worshiping Jesus as your Lord, God, and Savior? Why aren't you worshiping? Now, does Jesus believe in the New Testament that He's the Son of Man, the mighty God, who would dawn in Galilee, the Gentiles? Let's see what Jesus says. Pastor, do me a favor. Go to Matthew chapter 3, verses 13 to 17. 10 more minutes. I'm going to try to wrap it up with a prophecy in the Old Testament that Messiah would die. I'm going to have to end it with that. Go to Matthew 3, 13 to 17. Do you remember in Isaiah 9 it said, a light has dawned in Galilee of the Gentiles. A light has dawned in Galilee of the Gentiles. Where did Jesus begin His ministry? Let's see. Matthew chapter 3, verses 13 to 17.
Then Jesus came from Galilee to the Jordan to be baptized by
Galilee where? To the Jordan. But didn't you read in Isaiah that God would honor Galilee of the Gentiles by the way of the sea to the Jordan? Who shows up in this area? Continue reading.
But John tried to deter him, saying, I need to be baptized by you, and do you come to me? Jesus replied, let it be so now. It is proper for us to do this to fulfill all righteousness.
And then what happens?
Then John consented. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he went up out of the water. At that moment, heaven was opened,